Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast. Each week, your host, Casey Hasten, Director of Recruiting at VIP, will bring you valuable insights from thought leaders, introduce you to incredible companies, and bring you tips for landing your dream job from our team of executive recruiters at VIP. And now, Casey Hasten.
Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast, a podcast devoted to adding value to your career, or candidate search, brought to you by VIP. I'm your host, Casey Hasten. I'm an executive recruiter, director of recruiting with VIP, and your all-around hiring guru. And you know it is my absolute passion to bring to you each week some of the most interesting people that I can find, and I really don't think I'm going to disappoint you this week either. So I'd like to welcome Dennis Dowdell, keynote speaker and best-selling author. Dennis has spent over 40 years building teams and people in over 50 countries. He's developed over 250, wait for it, 1,000 individuals who effectively contribute to a common vision of becoming stronger leaders and better team players. That's a lot. Thanks for being here today.
Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. What a joy to be here with you today.
250,000 leaders?
It took some time. 44 years to be exact.
That is incredible. And you still are going strong today.
Well, it's like they say, when you love what you do, you just, it's not work. You just keep on doing it. People ask, when are you going to retire? And I said, you retire to do what you love. I'm already doing it. So I guess I've been in retirement for 44 years.
That's a great way to look at it. And I say that all the time too. I'm so very blessed that I feel like I never work a day in my life either. Yeah. I'm excited when Monday rolls around. I'm excited when I get to go and crush the world and serve the people that I love to serve by, changing lives one job at a time.
Right. You're part of the Thank God It's Monday group.
Yeah. Oh, you say that too.
I do.
I love that.
True.
I first heard that, and I even think I mentioned this in the last episode. The studio where we're recording right now, Real News PR. Shout out to all the crew here at Real News PR because it's an amazing place. But that's the owner, Jeff Crilly. That's his motto.
Oh.
Thank God it's Monday.
Yeah.
And that's where I first heard that.
Back at it. Let's go.
Yeah. I love that. So let's talk a little bit. I mean, you had an interesting start to your career.
Yeah.
So you started as a bus driver?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that and how you ended up becoming a best-selling author.
Well, I'd been driving a school bus because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I graduated from college. And I didn't want to get a job. I wanted to be able to find a career doing something that I really loved to do where I could make a difference for people. And so nothing came up. So I got this job driving a bus so I could have off during the day so I could go out and look. And coming up on my 30th birthday, I said, I better get after this thing. And so I jumped out and I ran across a little startup company. Now it's called Herbalife. Now it's a multi-billion-dollar company, 95 countries. But it was founded by Mark Hughes, a ninth grade educated dropout.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And, I always call him the ninth grade educated genius because the guy was amazing. And what opened in my life at that point in time was this idea of actually being mentored. Now, I'd studied people and stuff like that, but to have somebody actually mentor you and invest in your life. And so it started with him, and then it moved on with Larry Thompson, who came on as the VP about a year later. A couple of years later, Jim Rohn. I spent 23 years traveling the world with Jim Rohn.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm telling you, that's an unparalleled experience.
So let's talk about that because that is like life-changing.
Oh, yes.
Right there. So what's one of the books that Jim Rohn's best known for?
7 Strategies to Wealth and Happiness.
Okay. And can you think of a favorite saying? Because there's one I'm thinking of and I can't remember what it is. Because he gets quoted all the time.
There's so much. In fact, I use this quote, so I use it in my book. But probably his most famous one is, "For things to change, you got to change. For things to get better, you got to get better." And that was an eye opener the first day I heard it.
Yeah.
And but I mean, just as you go through your life, and these quotes of his just keep coming up, and I use them all the time. One of my biggest compliments I ever get is people say, "You sound just like Mark Hughes and Jim Rohn." I said, "Man, you just can't get any better than that." Wow. But it's just because I quote them all the time.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, listen, in school you got, docked for cheating, but when you get out in the business world, it's an honor, when you copy. If you copy in school, you get in trouble, but when you copy successful people, it turns out to be good for both of you.
Absolutely.
And in fact, one of Jim's saying, he says, "There's nothing better than to hear your name used in someone else's testimony." And I thought, boy, isn't that the truth? That's a good goal to have.
That is a beautiful goal. Now, you said something earlier that you didn't want to just take a job. You wanted to figure it out what it was you wanted to do. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. Real important. Because, I knew enough at the time where it seemed like people were always getting a new job every 5 or 6, 8 years. And I said, I don't want to do that. I want to find something that I really love to do and then just build it and develop it for the rest of my life. And that's really what Herbalife opened up that door for me. And because I was doing something for people. My big holdback was the fact that when I first heard it, multi-level, listen, that's a tough banana. I get it.
I was going to ask you because it's kind of got a bad rap.
Oh yeah, it does, and it's tough. And so when I know people have succeeded, and I have all the respect in the world for them because it is tough because you're wearing all the hats.
Yep.
From advertising, starting, boom, boom, boom. And but so it was just amazing just to watch how I could make a difference for people. But when I first saw the squares and circles, I thought, oh, that's some kind of sales. I thought, that's it. I'm out of here. I don't like sales, don't want sales, not doing sales. See you later. But Mark, in his infinite 9th grade wisdom, said, "Denny," he says, you really don't have to sell anything. And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" He says, "Don't you work with college kids?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "What do you do?" Well, I said, I just help them deal with problems. He said, "What kind of problems?" I said, "All kinds of problems, family problems, school problems, relation problems. He says, "Do they have weight problems?" I said, "Mark," I said, "have you never heard of the freshman 15, freshman 30?" And he said, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Well," he says, "do they have financial problems?" I said, "Mark," I said, "what are you getting at? They're in college." Of course they have financial problems. And he says, "Well, good." He says, "Now you have 2 more problems to solve." And the penny dropped. I thought, that's it. I never have to sell a thing. I just simply have to help somebody solve a problem they have up to this point in time in their life not been able to solve. And that was it. And I love doing that. And I thought, this is it. I can do this. And that's what started it. And it just went from person to person. And I realized that really all this was like discipleship.
That's interesting.
It was like discipleship in a business format. And I started really catching that because Mark started mentoring or discipling. Mentoring is the word of the day, right? But he started mentoring me. And then Jim started mentoring me. And the thing that really helped me in my story over the years was I surrounded myself and then was able to get 4 or 5 real key people that mentored me and invested in my life. And I took it serious. I took notes. I really paid attention and I applied what they said. Even if I didn't understand it, even if I didn't really think it would work, if they said to do it, I say, "Listen, you're there. I want to be there. I'll do whatever you say."
That is so important.
And so that's what I've done. And I tell, even in the middle of trainings that I do, I'll stop and I'll say, "Hey, isn't this great stuff?" And after they're listen to me for 30 minutes or 2 or 3 messages, and I say, "Well, that seems a little different comment. He has had this more of a humble attitude prior to this, And I said, "Well, listen," I said, "only copy the good stuff." I said, "Everything I get here, I'll copy from somebody smarter than me."
So true.
And that's what Mark said. He said, "Hey, when he got started, he said, I just surrounded myself with people smarter than I am."
That's exactly. Don't be afraid of that. Don't try to be the smartest person in the room.
You don't want to be. Actually, I want to be the dumbest guy.
Yeah.
Of the 5, because that means that I can grow and I'm going to grow and learn from all of them. And in your income, they say your average income is the average of your 5 closest friends. So I thought, I'm going to find me some rich friends.
I love what you said about copying because I really don't think it's copying. I think it's more like imitating.
Exactly.
And the reason I say that is because I recently published a book as well, a journal, and this journal is a compilation of all of the strategies and processes and techniques that I've learned from all the greats throughout the year. And, and there's 120 different quotes in that book from all the different people. Zig's probably most prominent, not going to lie, because I love Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of the book, I did something a little different. I have a full page of all the, most of the resources I used where I pulled techniques from that went into my journal.
Wow, very cool.
But it's
Great
just,
idea.
I've just packaged it a little
Addition
differently.
to, maybe took note.
But I think it's important that, and like each week I have a recommended reading, and it's going to be, and it's 12 weeks. And so it's going to be one of those authors. Like, for example, the first recommended reading I have is The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, because that's what prompted all of this for me.
Yeah.
It was such a great inspiration.
Yeah. No,
So,
and I even put in the front, I said, listen, this book is filled with so many quotes and ideas and sayings from people. I said, I not only learned them, but I implemented them and have embedded them into my life to the point I don't even know who said what when. I said, it just comes out. So if it sounds familiar like somebody else said it, they probably did. But that's the truth. And I think that's the idea, to help people really be able to make those changes, is when you not only learn them, you got to learn them, and then you got to apply them. And if you really want to lock it in, learn to teach it. Because when you teach it, you can't teach it and not know it.
yeah, that is so true.
And so that's been a process of my duplication over the last 4 decades. I put them through a process. First, we have 90-day plans. I said, first 90 days, learn it. Second 90 days, do it. Third 30 days. Third 30 days, teach it.
That is so important.
And it's very powerful, because once they can teach it, they can learn it, right? But when you do it, doing it's different than knowing it.
Yes.
And so there's those 3 steps. Of course, I'm right with them all the way, making sure that, they're feeling comfortable and confident, because that's the biggest thing we've got to do, is develop their confidence. I always say, develop their confidence, and the confidence will come.
Oh, I like that. Is that an original?
I think that is.
That's pretty good. Develop the confidence, and the competence will come. We need to bookmark that in this podcast. That's gold right there. I love that. Well, congrats on your book, Maximizing You.
It's been fun.
So when was it published?
January last year, 23.
Actually
Yeah, and
Is this your first book?
yes, yeah.
Wow. How did that feel?
It's actually wonderful, incredible. Something I had on a bucket list but never thought I would do. I flunked English twice, and really it was one of my mentors that spearheaded it. And he, knowing who I am, he kind of came in the back door, right? And I'm talking to him one day, and he said, Denny, listen, he says, you've developed this phenomenal team, 250,000 people around the world. He said, what are the principles that you've used over these last 40 years that allowed you to create such an effective, productive team? And I said, well, there's a lot of them. And he said, like what? He said, and I said, well, I started naming. He said, listen, he says, make me a list. I said, all right. So I make a list, and I had about 50, 60 different, principles and concepts, and kind of reduced it down to about 45. And I said, okay, here's my list, because he always wants to see the list, right?
Yeah.
So I sent him a list, and he says, wow. He says, good, Danny. He says, I think you got
And
it.
this is your mentor, right?
This is my mentor, yeah. This is.
Wait, let me just pause you. I know you're on a roll here, but I want to point out, you have had, how long have you been in your career?
44 years.
And you still have a mentor.
Oh, so absolutely. You've always got to have a mentor.
That's what I wanted to highlight.
There's always somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just talked last week again. It's the guy's brilliant, and I never talk to the guy when I don't walk away with something.
I love that.
It's just Bob Beal, and he's probably the most quoted guy in the book, followed by Jim Rohn. And you got to understand, if you're going to exceed Jim Rohn in quotes,
you better be good.
This guy's probably the wisest human being I've ever met.
Wow, I want to meet him.
And he is the quietest, introvert you'd ever want to meet. When he used to talk like this. And his wife said, no, Bob, you got to get some, up and down in here, right? But I tell you, just so wise. And so, I said, okay. And I just started putting these things together. And I said, okay, I'll do it. This is it. And so each chapter is just one principle. It's
Wow.
one chapter per principle. And some are a half a page and some are 4 or 5 pages. But it's real fast. It's a simple read. And it's just, an accumulation of the principles and how I applied them. I've had 5 major mentors. And I can never do what they did, but I can become the kind of people they were.
Yes.
And that's what got me. See, I said, okay, I can take what they have and apply it to my own life. And that's been the key. And to me, that's what personal development is. I know people, they go to, personal development seminars day in and day out, week in, week out, and they don't change much.
You got to implement it.
And well, that's it. I think personal development is learning to overcome obstacles and applying them to my life so that it makes a difference for me or others. And if it doesn't, I haven't learned anything. I've just gained knowledge, but I haven't learned anything. And so that's a key factor, is getting somebody to apply them. There's a book called Go Giver. It's a Go Giver series. You know that one?
I've had Bob Berg on the show.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, I got to watch that.
That's one of my top 2. Those are my Miracle Morning and The Go Giver are the top two books that I recommend to every young executive.
I'm on track.
You're doing good.
But that was his key, in those books. He says, okay, I'm going to teach you the principle, but you got to apply it before the day's over. And it's such valuable advice. It's so wise, because there's always a way you can apply things.
Absolutely.
And so that's worked, and that's where basically the 90-day plan. Learn it, do it, teach it.
Yes.
Kind of.
So this might interest you. The 5 stratospheric rules of success that the book is based off of, because it's the 5 chapters, right? I have those printed and framed right above my computer monitor at home.
Wow,
that's how important that is to me.
Yeah. No, listen, when you find a good, I have some people too, people go to seminars or people read books. I had a guy told me one time, he said, I read 77 books this year. And I looked at him and I thought, wow, that's sad. And I thought, I'd rather read, 7 books 11 times than 77 books one time.
Really?
Yeah, I would, because if it's good.
Yeah.
You're always reading.
Yeah.
But how much did he really get out and be able to apply out of those 77 books? I've got bookshelves. Hundreds of books, and I've probably read about 65% of them. Okay, but and when I've read through them once, I may have one thing I learned out of some of the different books, so I'll remember the one thing. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? Stephen McCovey. I couldn't tell you anything that's in that book except one thing. Begin with the end in mind. Right?
Yeah.
And I took that principle, and it's one of the principles I utilize in teaching people how to change. People know they should change, but they don't know how to change. And so I took that principle and just worked it backwards. And it's great. And then you've got a step-by-step process to go through. I want people to be able to walk out from a conversation or a meeting or a training with me and have all the confidence in the world. I can apply that today. I can actually do it. And I want them to walk out with their life being different. That's my goal for every seminar, meeting, training, or anything that I do.
I love that so much. And obviously, having developed over 250,000 leaders, that's a lot, you must have a knack for finding that hidden potential for, within them. How do you help them discover it for themselves? Obviously, you're probably not just saying, okay, this is what you're good at.
Well, we notice what we're good at. The key is to get them to notice what they're good at. And in fact, that's one of the questions I ask them. I say, hey, listen, what do you find that you can do just naturally better than other people?
Talk.
And so whatever that is. But you see, that's a talent, that's a gift, that's a passion. See, and then I say, okay, so what would you consider then to be your single greatest strength?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
My connectivity, connecting people.
Brilliant. And what are you doing for a career?
I'm connecting people.
And you said earlier, that you love it.
Yeah, I do.
And that's that idea. See, when they find things that they just do naturally. See, a lot of people, when we do something naturally, we think, well, that's no big deal. That's no talent. That's no gift. That's just what I do. Yeah, but others can't do that.
Yeah.
And so that's we need to recognize that I do it naturally, so it's no big deal. But to somebody else, that's a big deal. You ask somebody to get up and give an impromptu message, in front of a crowd of people, they're going to die. They're going to have a heart attack, right? I mean, that's in the top 3 of the most scariest things people do. Right?
I don't even have to picture people naked in the audience anymore. I don't think I ever did.
but I mean, to me, that's duck soup. Okay, let's go. I mean, I'll think of something. You just, give me between here and the stage. I'll come up with something.
Yeah.
But that's a natural for me. See, but it's not for other people. So when you discover those things, now you can start to zone in on what you do, and you can start becoming more confident, because you say, oh, you mean so I don't have to be good at something that they're good at? No, you have to be good at what you're good at.
That's right. I talk a lot about assessments and about finding what you're good at. And I think for me, the struggle was, before I figured this out, was I thought I had to be good at everything. That if I wasn't good at something and people found out, then I was a failure in everything else. And when I finally let go of that, like technology is not my thing. And I used to try to pretend that it was, that I could figure out anything, and I would sit there for hours doing something that I didn't need to be doing, right? Wasting time on something I didn't love. And so now I'm just like, if it's technology related, I outsource that weakness.
Oh, absolutely.
I find somebody else that loves to do it, and I'm like, here, make it pretty.
Well, that's it. And I mean, in other words, we need to develop our strengths so that our weaknesses become irrelevant.
Right.
And when we do that, and the idea is hire it out. Like you say, source it out to someone else. And number one, you don't like doing it. And if you don't like doing it, you're not going to be as good as somebody who is.
Yeah.
And so, do that. And listen, I've mastered that because I'm not that smart in that many things. So I source everything out. My wife says, why don't you just do it? No, listen, I got better things to do with my time.
Exactly. Why should you mow the lawn when somebody can get out there and make it look a whole lot better?
That's right.
And faster.
Right.
And it's just, it
And
doesn't
I don't
make
have
sense.
to sweat.
Exactly. And it's not a good use of your time.
That's right.
The value of the time, right?
No, there's no question.
And we don't, all we have, our most valuable asset is our time.
Yeah.
We don't get that back.
And so when we understand how that is, what it does, and part of the reason it helps to develop our confidence is because, okay, I'm good at this, and therefore I'm confident of this, and now I know where I can contribute.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize how special or unique they are. And when you understand how unique you are, then we understand the idea of another one of Jim's sayings, each of us need all of us, and all of us need each of us. When I first started, in the first few years, we'd go out and do seminars. I mean, I had to do everything. I mean, I had to work on the stage setup. I had to work out on registration and all the staff running the show and the sounds and all the different things. And I had to then speak, and I had to organize it all. Well, once they got coordinators, meeting coordinators, oh my gosh, I mean, it was like heaven. I just rolled in. I could just zero in on what I wanted to do. I mean, I had all the time, and it just is so much more powerful.
Yeah. I think that's one thing about this podcast, because we, record here in the studio, and kind of like what you just said, I think I feel the same way. And I've been very fortunate that I don't have to spend a lot of time on worrying about the cameras are on or anything like that. I just get to come in and talk to you and just have a conversation. So, I mean, that's one reason I would argue for it's good to be in studio and have, a company that's helping you out. And I know not everybody can do that, but if you can, it's totally worth it. There's no reason to struggle with it, because it is a struggle. And these people are experts at it, right?
Yeah, and they like doing it.
They love doing it. They've been here forever. Yeah. So in your opinion, when it comes to leadership, because you've obviously been a stellar leader, you've done something right, what is the most important skill to have?
Well, unquestionably, it's people skills. In other words, I personally, and of course you probably understand this better than most, but people skills is probably one of the most powerful assets that you can have. Because And in fact, I remember a story. The guy's name was Bob, and I forget, but he was interviewing at Porsche. And when he was finally talking to one of the actually sons or grandsons of Porsche and stuff like that, it was like the final interview. And one of the questions that he asked this guy, Bob, to take over the operations CEO of the company, he said, let me ask you something. He said, if I was to give you all of the manufacturing facilities, a choice of all the manufacturing facilities or all of our employees, which would you take? And he said, the employees. And he said, you're hired.
Wow. That's important.
It's important because here's what I've discovered. We all have a purpose, a vision, and then we have the process that we need to fulfill that purpose or vision. Every process encounters problems. Most problems deal with people, not things. People and personalities, right? So that's the biggest problem. But here's the key of it. They're also the biggest solution.
Yes.
So I got a problem with this person, but this person here is going to provide me the solution that I need to deal with this person. And when I can develop the skills to understand that person and be able to motivate that person, encourage that person, and draw from that person, see that person's perspective, that's going to help me solve the problem and get through the process to fulfill my purpose. So it's just one of these up and back type deals.
So I'm curious, did you do that naturally throughout your career, or did you have some kind of assessments? Like I know a lot of employers use DISC or Culture Index.
Oh yeah, I mean I understand. Bob Beal has a great deal on just our different talents, or different motivations. He says,
Okay.
there's some people, they're designers, they're the thinkers. They come up with ideas. If you want to say come up with something, give them a blank piece of paper and say, get something for me, and they come up with something. They come up with the idea, but that's it. And then there's that designer, but then there's a designer developer, and the designer developer says that is a great idea. I can make it work. And so what he does is he creates a working module for the thing, and he's got it. And he says, see, I knew we could make this work, and then he's done. So then you need the developer. The developer says, it does work, and I can get it off the ground. I can get everybody to want this thing. And so this guy will take that, develop it, launch the company with this newly designed product, and he'll get it to about 70, 80% effectiveness. And by that time, he says, okay, it's kind of good enough. Listen, it's out and going.
Yeah.
Then you need the developer manager. And the developer manager says, listen, I'll take what you've put here. I'm going to fine tune that baby and get it to 100%. I'm going to make this thing perfect. I'm going to really, zero in on this thing, right? And then you get the manager, and the manager's job is just to make sure that it stays that way. And so those are these 5 categories. Now they're all different. They're all necessary. And you can automatically see that there's going to be some people who are not going to get along with it. The designer and the manager are not going to get along. This one wants everything the same. This one's always looking for change.
Right.
So you've got that. The other thing we did was a personality assessment. Now, they've got, the sanguine, choleric, melancholy, and phlegmatic. They've got, all these different things. But the one I like is the bulls, owls, lambs, and tigers.
Okay, I've seen that one.
Because they're descriptive. The animals kind of describes you a little bit of the personality. And so when people understand the personalities, then they say, oh, that's just who they are.
What do you think I am?
You're probably a tiger.
See, I think I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time since I've taken that assessment, but I thought I was a bull.
Well, yeah, and you could be both.
But maybe kind of both.
Well, you could be both. And you could be, maybe it's tiger, bull, or it could be bull, tiger.
Yes.
Which means, and you probably are predominantly bull, now that you mention it, just because of your vision, your ability to say, okay, I see you and I see what you could have done. So you've got this bigger picture.
Yes, that's definitely me.
You probably don't like details.
Hate details.
See, bingo. That's so that was easy to eliminate that one.
I hate details.
But but we need that. So they have that big picture to get
Yes.
things. You make things
I'm the
happen.
visionary.
Yeah, and you make things happen.
Yes.
See, but you have fun doing it. That's why I kind of threw in the tiger.
Yeah, I do have fun doing it. So when you look at my disc, if you're familiar with that, I'm a high DI. Like I have almost no SC at all, which means details, no.
Right.
Following a formula, no.
Yeah.
Really, and I can flip between that D and that I. But at the end of the day, I'm more predominantly D by just a little bit,
Yeah.
which means I'm very extroverted. I love people. That's my I. But at the end of the day, I want to get the job done.
Right. So we'll say that, and that's why I said tiger, because tigers, they're the Tony the Tiger, gonna have fun, party, let's do
Yep.
it, let's make it extravagant, let's have a great time doing this.
Yep.
But your vision, your big picture, make it happen, get it done.
Yep.
Bulls want to get it done. Crash through, get it done. Okay,
Yep.
next.
Yep. And I think that's what confuses people a lot of the times because, I've argued with people all the time. They're like, no, you're an ID, Casey. I'm like, no, you see the ID.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'm a DI.
Right.
You test me. Try to keep a project from getting done, and you're going to see the D come out.
Right. Yeah, I'm a covert bull.
Oh.
I'm probably, oddly enough, more predominantly lamb at this point in my life. Lamb used to be the lowest on the category, but when I was a bull, I was such a bullheaded, strong, arrogant, proud, bull that I hurt some people. And when I realized that, I said, "Oh my gosh, this is the opposite of what I wanted to do." And so I really zeroed in and intentionally developed. In fact, one of the things that I do with a lot of my guys, when I find a bull, right, that predominant big, driven type person, I said, okay, I says, I want to stretch you this week. This week, I want you to act and respond like a lamb all week. Oh, and you tell a lamb, this week, I want you to act and respond like a bull. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's probably one of the toughest assignments I can give them.
That's so interesting.
But it's just
I'm going to use that with my mentees.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's very powerful.
It's so powerful.
Because it gets them to see things from another perspective.
Yes.
Even if they fail at it. The thing is their mind went that way. See, and that's a part of the deal. And that's where we say, okay, I need, it's like the old saying, we need to seek to understand before I'm understood. And the more you understand, the better you'll be understood. The more you understand, the better you're going to be able to respond the way that they will hear you.
Yes.
And I think that's really vital because most people want to be understood. They don't want to understand. When they're in a conversation, you need to understand me. And they said, no, you need to understand them.
Yes.
See, and it's that principle of opposites, that I have a whole chapter on that in the book, but it's the principle of opposites, seek to understand rather than be understood, seek to be interested, not interesting.
You're just like, I feel like you're dissing on me right now, all the things I love to do.
But and that's it, because think about it, because I'm an introvert, now I can be social. I'm intentionally social. In public, I'm social. I have the responsibility of being social. But, we have parties. I go to the party, make sure that everybody sees that I'm there, and go home. I'm there. I'm at a party maybe 15, 20 minutes. I'm out of there. And and the difference is that an introvert, they recover solo.
Yes.
See, an extrovert, they recover being around people.
Yes.
See, so if I want to recover, I need to be by myself. I can do very well. I've developed the skill. So that's a key. But so what I learned to ask questions. And when I learned to be interested in other people, I'd go in and ask them a few questions, and I always ask questions about them. And you always ask open-ended questions.
Yes.
People, standard question when you're in a group of people you don't even know. Oh, and so where are you from? Terrible question. Because they say Chicago. Okay, now what?
Yeah.
So what I've learned to say, well, wherever we are, I said, oh, then, nice to meet you guys. So what brought you to the Dallas area? And so now they can tell me a story. See, and stories are good, and they know that.
Stories are good.
See, and so now they're comfortable talking because they're talking about something they know and something they've experienced and something that brought them to where they are, and you have that type of thing, and so it's, you don't ask somebody, well, what do you do for a living? You say, no, why did that? I'm a plumber. Okay, now what? So you just say, hey, so tell me, what consumes most of your time? Now, maybe work consumes most of the time, but what consumes most of their head thought is their sport or their hobby. And so now the door is open and they get to share with you about something that they really like.
And you're automatically building rapport.
And then fun, and that's what I loved about it. See, I'll go up and I'll talk to somebody for 10 minutes. I haven't said nothing. I walk away and they say, very interesting guy. I haven't said anything.
I love that. I could sit here and talk to you all afternoon. Unfortunately, we are going to have to bring this to a close. This has been so much fun and so much information, and I do want to get to our VIP questions, but I'm only going to ask one, and I think I know which one I want to ask you because I think it's so appropriate.
I'm ready.
So if your life's work was being summarized in a news article, what would the headline be?
It would be, he made a difference maximizing others' potential.
Of course I would. That's exactly what I thought it would be. I love that. How do people find you? How do they find the book?
Well, you can just go to maximizeyou.com.
How did you get that?
I know, can you believe it? I was blown away when I got it.
That is
Maximize
crazy.
You. And I thought, man, nobody else got it?
Like John Maxwell didn't have that?
I mean, and so, yeah, so anyway, maximizeyou.com. And, you can get the book there. There's a speaking tab because now my venture is to really venture outside of the Herbalife business because, that's so set. I don't really have to do anything anymore.
That's so sweet. We need to mention, how many levels deep are you on that?
Last I checked, it was 58 generations deep.
That is, for anybody who knows MLM, that is insane. Do you know anybody that has more levels than you in any other MLM?
No.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
You need to file that with Guinness World Book of Records.
Well, I don't know. There may be. I mean, and it may be in our organization. The company is built under 5 people, and I'm one of the 5.
Wow,
So,
that's incredible.
'cause, I mean, of course, the company was only 4 months old when I started. So.
But look at what you got to do.
Oh my gosh, it's just been absolutely amazing. If I had to write a job description, this is it.
I wish that for everybody.
Oh, it's so true.
I wish that for everybody.
I do. And that's why I want to be able to help people realize, listen, being successful, having your own business, it's not as hard as you think. You've got it in your head that it's difficult. It's not.
Yep, you're in your own way.
There's some simple principles, and you just follow these principles. Listen, the principles work, whether you understand them or not. And they'll work for any country, any culture, any faith, any philosophy, if you follow the principles, just work.
I love that. All right. Thank you so much for being here with us today, for coming in person, and just sharing your wisdom. It has been an absolute pleasure to be here with you today.
Thanks for having me. What a joy. What a joy to meet you. And the fact that I met you through, another connection.
Yes, absolutely. And I was trying to remember who introduced us.
Was that Peter? Was it a Peter? Who was it?
I don't remember. This is really horrible. That's why I usually start the episode with how did we get connected? And I could not for the life of me remember how we got connected. But I'm so glad we did. It was divine.
Me too.
So, well, I just have one last thing to say to you.
Tell me.
You are a VIP.
Oh, thank you so much. You are too. What a one.
And that's a wrap for today. Join us next week here on the We Are VIP podcast. We'd love to know how we can help you be a VIP. To find out more, log on to wearevip.com.